What I talked to the manufacturers today about is that whatever the present crisis they're in, it does not reflect the future opportunity. Change tends to come to us from the outside in, causing us to crisis manage, put out fires. But growth comes from the inside out, whether it's personal growth or organizational growth. And if we're going to rapidly grow our companies, we shouldn't be focused on maintaining growth, but rather, how do we accelerate it? Instead of being focused on a recession, if that's what we're in, we should be focusing on what are the new markets? What are the new cash cows? How do I make my margins fatter and thicker? How do I decommoditize the items that I'm competing on price? We need to be asking a lot better questions. I talked to them about certainty, and that in an uncertain world where we don't know how the economy is going to be a year from now, we don't know if stocks will be up or down a year from now, we don't know if real estate's going to be up or down a year from now, if all you look at is all the things you don't know, all the things you're uncertain about, you're not going to make very good decisions. Instead, strategy based on certainty, the things we do know, have low risk and high reward. So in an uncertain world, I need to ask myself, what am I absolutely certain about? And the fact of the matter is, there can be a very huge list. And then if you put your business strategies against certainty, you got low risk and high reward. So I talked about how you can find certainty in an uncertain world. One of the concepts I shared is that there are two types of trends, hard trends and soft trends. Now, both of them statistically look good in the present. Hard trends will definitely happen, soft trends might happen. A good definition would be a soft trend. Let me give you an example and a story. A couple of decades ago, Elvis Presley passed away. And in the 10 years after his death, every year there was an increasing number of Elvis impersonators. And I remember doing a study way back then, and it showed that by the year 2000, 1 in 3 Americans would be professional Elvis impersonators. Obviously, a soft trend didn't happen, even though the numbers look good. Would business do that? Would government do that? And the answer is yes, we do it all the time. As a matter of fact, our federal government in 1999 said that right about now we'd be experiencing a $1 trillion surplus, when in reality we've got almost a $1 trillion deficit. It's like $2 trillion off. Most kids are better than that in school. So how could they be so wrong? They were looking at good numbers, but they were drawing soft trends. Be careful. So I talked about hard trends then, the ones that will happen. One of the examples I gave is demographics. We've got 78 million baby boomers. The oldest one right now is 61 years old. Most of them are in their 50s. Some are in their late 40s. Now let's look at what we know for sure. Let's dial the clock ahead 10 years. The oldest baby boomer just turned 71. Most are in their 60s and some are in their late 50s. What are they doing to their investments? They're adjusting them for retirement. Is this a cyclical change or a permanent change? And the answer is permanent. They're not going to get young all of a sudden. So if we've got 78 million people that are shifting into a retirement mode with their investments, and this is a global phenomena because baby boomers are also in Italy, they're in Germany, they're in Japan, they're in New Zealand, they're in Australia, they're in all of the industrialized world. Now they're not in India, they're not in China, they're not in the emerging nations of Malaysia, but they are in all the industrialized nations. If we have all of those people all of a sudden getting very conservative over the next 10 years and staying that way, do we have a tectonic impact on the stock market globally? The answer is yes. Is this bad news? No, it's only bad news if you didn't know about it ahead of time. As a matter of fact, we can ask ourselves, what are the opportunities? As a manufacturer, if, let's say I sell boats to fishermen, well, if I got 78 million people, out of that there's a percent that love to fish. But when you get to be 70, 75, it gets kind of hard to launch that boat. So what if I decided to create the easy launch trailer? Do you think I might have a market? The answer is yeah, I think you will have a market. Getting in and out of boats can be a hassle. What if I made it easy for someone that maybe is older and has an arthritic knee to get in and out of a boat? Do you think that boat might do pretty good? And the answer is I think so. You see, what if I developed an escalator, or not an escalator, an elevator, 2-story elevator that you could retrofit to a house so that as you get older, you can get up and down the steps? No, just take the elevator. That might do quite well. You see, we can invent the future. We can create products that people will need increasingly every year if we're basing it on certainty. Government regulation creates certainty. and I talked about that. When they pass a law, there are things that means and ramifications that provides great opportunity for all of us. Often we just look at the challenge, at the problem. But you know, every problem has an opportunity. Every plus has a minus, every white has a black, every good has a bad, every heaven has a hell. In other words, there's a duality. They all exist together. So when something bad is happening to you, you got to ask yourself what's good is happening. Just like when something good happens, I like to ask myself, what bad has happened? Because they all happen simultaneously, and there's opportunity if you just step back and look at the bigger picture. Technology creates the ultimate hard trend. But why? Technology redefines reality. I mean, you're taping this interview right now that people are watching. You're taping this. At one time, that was impossible. There was no videotape. Matter of fact, at one point in time, there was no film. At one point in time, there was no chair for you and I to sit on. You had to find a stump. Ever since man set foot on this planet, we've been using technology to change reality. Well, that's why I love technology, because we've got some unbelievable problems facing us as a society right now. Impossible problems, but technology lets you make the impossible possible. So with these new tools that we have, we can do great things. If I'm a manufacturer and I'm focused on a recession, I'm not going to think of those great things. I'm going to be hunkering down and scaling back, instead of realizing that something is happening right now that's never happened in history ever before, and you need to know about it. And that is, there is a perfect storm of opportunity and disruption that's coming our way, and it's hitting our shores right now. By the way, when I say shores, it makes it sound like it's just Wisconsin or just the United States. Oh no, this is a global phenomenon. And it's only three things. It's pretty simple. Three things are coming together. They've been around for years, but they're coming together in a new way, in a way they've never come together before. One of them is processing power, how powerful our computers are. Moore's law. Decades ago, Moore came up with a law and said processing power will double every 12 months as the price drops in half. And that's been true for decades and still going strong. But doubling does not produce a graph that looks like this. It produces a graph that looks like that, like a hockey stick. So to go from a 5 megahertz chip to a 500 megahertz chip, how long did that take? And the answer, it took 20 years. 20 years to go from a 5 to a 500. By the way, how long did it take to go from 500 to 1 gig, double that? And the answer was 8 months, and that was like 4 years ago. In other words, the 80s, nothing much happening, kind of boring. 90s, nothing much happening. Computers weren't that powerful. Even in 2001, 2, 3, it just started to swoop up. Right now, it's like this. Next year, it's like this. Year after, it's like that. You know what? It's not just that. It's bandwidth. Remember when you got a 512K modem and thought, cool? Try one now. Better put a lot of time aside. It's really slow. You see, bandwidth is accelerating faster than processing power. But wait, there's even more. The third one, storage. How can they get so much in an iPod? By the way, next year they'll get more, won't they? And it'll be cheaper. You see, if you've got storage, bandwidth, and processing power, not on a curve like this, but on a curve like this, it changes everything. It changes automation, changes robotics. And if you're a manufacturer, you're going to pay attention to that. You know what it's going to do? It's not going to change any of that. It's going to transform it. Now, people talk about change and transformation. Let me just give you a distinction. Back when I was a young guy, we could listen to a Jimi Hendrix album, this big, one album on one big spinning disc. Then they came up with a CD, and as I got older and could buy a CD, I thought to myself, cool, I'll get those because they don't have scratches on them. So now I have a CD. What is it? A smaller spinning disc with one album on it. That's change. That's not transformation. But when we put all my albums on one iPod that I can put in my pocket and I can listen to all my music anytime I want, you know what? That's not change. That's transformation. Well, these three things are about to transform what? How we sell, how we market, how we advertise, how we design, how we communicate, how we collaborate. It's going to transform those things. And that, to me, brings opportunity for those that are willing to embrace it and to focus on not just the current crisis, but the near future opportunity.